I had never heard that particular story of Master's before, or if I'd had heard it, I'd forgotten it, that a disciple came to him and said, when going through a hard time, "Give me the grace to find God." And Master said, "I've given you that grace. I give it to all who come." And then it was encouraging to have Swamiji add, "and he's given it to you all." Swamiji also said in this same talk at another point that we should affirm our saintliness. We should identify with the goal that we're going towards, which is God. And he said that when he met Norman, which you've all now seen in the movie, you remember when he met Norman at Ananda Village, he talked to Latika and all that. No, if you know the actors involved, it's really quite fun to see that scene. But when he met Norman, and Norman said to him that Master told me I had been a yogi many times before. And for Swamiji, this was just such a thought, because he hadn't known about gurus or reincarnation, as you've heard him say, any of these things, before reading the autobiography of a yogi and then coming to Master. So it was all still new, and just this thought that someone could tell you that you have lived before and you've been a yogi. So Swamiji was eager to ask Master the same thing. And this part he has put in the New Path, where he asked Master, was I a yogi before? And Master said, you would have had to have been, to be here now. And Swamiji continued in that particular talk, in that gathering, and he said, that's true for all of you. He said, it would have to be true for you to come here and celebrate in this way. He said, you have great spiritual strength. And he said, and of course, there were those who were with Master, and he said, but you should count yourself among them, and not think anything less. It's a funny thing that somehow we can get caught up on our the failings that we have, or the problems that we have, and take them too seriously. Now, if you don't have this problem, then you can just sort of skip this next section. But it's a funny thing how people will cling to that little thing and make such a deal out of it when they have so many things going for them. For one thing, especially as yogis, you've got everything going for you. Just do Kriya. Yes, but I have this problem. Just do Kriya. Yes, but I did this before I got on the spiritual path. Just do Kriya. Really, you will see, again, as Swamiji has said, how much you change. Think about how much you've changed since the time you got here, when you first came. And for those of you who have been around a few years, we have proof, we have photographs. 2013, 2014, 2015. Okay, the light is starting to come into the eyes, and so on. The light was always there. And it's God's light, and it's your light too, but that light can be hidden initially. And it actually makes sense. I was thinking of somebody, and Dharmini and I were discussing, somebody who is a deep soul, and yet I see, it feels always there's a little bit of holding back, a little bit of distance, I would say. And of course, not everybody's nature is to be all completely like that, and so that's fine. But I just wondered, so it's just conjecture, it's not specifically about this person, if there wasn't still that habit of holding oneself back a little bit because we've been hurt, or because we have been fish out of water. And even when we find where all the other fish are and we jump back into the ocean, still we kind of worry a little bit, because I have gone through life expecting to be misunderstood, expecting people not to share in my high values, or if I bring up something, somebody says, oh yeah, come off it, who are you kidding? And so it's important to, even if we do, whatever we say to others or however we act with others is fine. It's good to be gracious if we can. But how we are with ourselves, we should not hold anything back from God. We should not feel guilty about anything, because we're all learning. This is how we learn. Some things are so easy to learn. But you notice how, even in school, perhaps you had an easy time learning the alphabet, or a, e, u, and so on. But maybe multiplication tables were difficult. Or vice versa, you loved history and you had a hard time with science, or the opposite. Not everything we learn equally well. Or even if we can learn it, we don't have equal interest in everything. So in the same way, some lessons in life we may have absorbed very quickly, and others we may find just sort of, we keep knocking our heads against it. But Swamiji gives us this promise. He said, when you finally get out of a delusion, and I could just end it there, when you get out of it. You see, just affirm that, when I am free from this, as opposed to I'm not free from this. It's been a long time. We even think maybe we might not ever get free of it. But anyway, when he said, when you get free from a delusion, you will ask yourself, what was ever my interest in this? You won't even see the attraction of it anymore. It will be dispelled. You'll be cured. But even in this, we should affirm our strengths. Master told the story of a woman who was a very bad person, and she did all kinds of awful things. And she was lying and cheating and stealing. I don't think she killed anybody, or at least not that many people. And she would hit people and always out for herself and never did anything for anyone else. And so finally she died, and maybe the earth heaved a sigh of relief. Heaved a sigh of relief. She found herself basically at the crossroads. And she arrived before the gatekeeper with the big book, and he was looking at her book. He had the good ledger and the evil ledger. And so he looked in her good ledger and blank. They checked all the pages, nothing there. And then they checked the evil ledger, and the thing was completely filled, scribbled in the margins, in between things, arrows pointing to sea and so on, completely. I think they'd even written on the back cover, inside cover, there was not enough room for all the bad things she's done. They said, we're sorry, but you're going south. You're going down. And she's, in her typical, as true to her personality, began screaming and asked to see the management. And they said, no, that's the whole problem. It's too late for that. And so she said, you've got to check again. There must have been something good that I have done. And so they checked again, and they saw, actually on the first page of the good ledger, there was a little footnote to nothing. I mean, there was nothing up above, but there was a little footnote at the bottom that said that once she had given a carrot to a beggar. And the story was that she had stolen a carrot from somewhere else, bitten into it, found a worm in it, and so then gave it to a beggar. And so she said, see? And he said, well, as far as good deeds go, that's not much of a good deed. Basically, she gave away something she didn't want anyway. But she said, but that has to count for something. And so he materialized a carrot, a magic carrot, no worm, and said, here, you can take this carrot and you'll start in the depths of hell, but if you take this carrot and hold on to it, it will lift you up to heaven. And so she said, fine. And even though there's more to the story, if you know the story, I wanted to pause there because it's a very deep teaching that Swamiji and Master emphasized again and again. No matter what we have done, and you haven't done anything compared to this fictional person, that if we even hang on to one good deed and affirm that, it can lift us all the way up to heaven. Just to finish the story for the sake of it, so she went down to hell, she grabbed the carrot, and sure enough, it began to lift her up. And she was going quite well, but she felt this sort of tug at her foot, and she noticed that there was somebody hanging on to her. Because seeing her lifting, they wanted to get out too. And so they were holding on to her, and there was a whole bunch of people, actually a whole train of them, holding on as she was holding. And she said, get off, this is my carrot. She began kicking at them to kick them off. And then in her, enthusiasm to get rid of them, she slipped and let go of the carrot and went crashing back down. And that's where the story ends. So at least for that incarnation. So you see how that's another thing too, that one's nature can have a strong force. But The point that Swamiji often made when telling that story, that Master would often tell, was that how even the strength of one good deed, if you cling to it, can lift you high. And you have many more than one good deed to cling to. There's no reason for us to be hard on ourselves about these things, because honestly, if we feel guilty, if we're sort of self-critical, sometimes it's just an excuse for not changing. I know I have this bad habit, but see how badly I feel about it? Doesn't that count for something? It doesn't really. It doesn't. We shouldn't focus on these things. We should change if we get feedback from others or the universe. We should take it seriously. So, there's always another side, and if you tend too far to one extreme, then it leaves the other side imbalanced. But I don't really want to talk about that. I just want to talk about how we need to celebrate the fact that we have put God first in our lives. There may be a second, third, and fourth, but if we have God first, it's a wonderful thing. And I mean it. In fact, when I was getting onto the spiritual path, I was getting a lot of criticism from all directions. And in fact, I was once, it was quoted to me, Mata Pitta Guru Devam. Mother is first, then Appa is second, and then Guru, whatever that means, according to this person, and Devam. So you must follow your mother's wishes, but regardless of her wishes, the second person, you've got to follow the father's wishes. So anyway, you can guess the source of the criticism that was coming at me. And so I thought about that, because I thought, well, if you put it that way, that is that's something it is in the scriptures, or maybe someone added it in the sort of, 596 edition, and people thought it was ancient, but it was just put in there by somebody who, the children didn't want to get married or something, so they put this into the scripture so they'd have something to point at. Who knows? So I thought, I think it may say that Mother, Father, Guru, Deva, but I think they just put it in reverse order. First you listen to God, then listen to the Guru, then, if you still have time, Father and Mother. So anyway, he didn't like that. But if we put God first, because the Guru is only helping us to come to God. And the Guru has God and is with God and only wants that same thing to come to us. As Master said, I've given you the grace to find God. What a thrilling thought. Not, I will give it to you if you're good. Or, I'll give it to you all, but not everybody. He said, I've given it to you, and I am giving it to all. Why? Because you asked for it. There's more to say about that, because we don't just say, oh, I have the grace, and so now I'm done. Thanks, Guruji, and I'll see you at the end of life. There's a little bit more in between. But the point is, celebrate what you have done with your life. Celebrate that you're even wanting a spiritual New Year's Eve. There's a lot of other things you could do on New Year's Eve, but you wanted to be here, and we're grateful because it's something that we too personally want, to be with God. And also, as we were hearing at the very beginning, this sense of celebrating community. This was in the Living Wisely, Living Well. It's much easier to find God when you have others around you, because each one is a saint in the making. Each one is working on himself or herself, and we can take strength from each other. First, just as reinforcement, that yes, I am doing the right thing because I have these other people who are unusually out of everyone else in my life saying, yes, actively seeking on the spiritual path is a good thing. What else do we have to show for at the end of life? See my bank balance, see my resume. Do you know how many bank balances you've had? Lots of them. Even before they were rupees, you had a bank balance. And when you were in other countries, you have bank balance. Sorry, you don't have access to them now. But how many families we've had? Our families are a blessing. But family in itself is not the ultimate goal. Even spiritual family, really. Unless it lifts us personally to freedom in God. That's what we're here for. There's nothing else. And there won't be anything else. And a part of you knows that, if not all of you knows that, because here you are. So don't feel that if other things in your life pull you away from your sadhana goals or pull you away from things. And don't look at those things as burdens. Just look at them as something to be worked through, as karma to be cleared out. And then I will be able to have even more energy to pour into this. But in the meantime, keep your sadhana as strong as you can keep it. Keep if you can't, meditate at work, maybe you can have a picture of Master on your desk. In other words, do with what freedom you do have, use it. And you will find the amazing thing, as Pranabananda felt such bliss that he wanted to retire early from his job in the railway station, but it seemed impossible. And he asked Lahiri Mahashaya, please help me. And Lahiri Mahashaya said, say what you feel. So he applied for early retirement, saying that he felt this surging energy tingling in his spine. And the medical officer reading this said, okay, yes, he should have early retirement from the railways. Maybe he thought he was having some kind of numbness from sitting in a chair or something. But Pranabananda Swamiji said, I was aware that my guru was working through the medical examiner and through your father. He said to Master of his own father, because he was his senior in the organization, to bring me this. He said, now I enjoy 2 pensions. This one railways pension and the other divine pension from my divine mother, my heavenly Father. So again, don't see our lives as divided either or. But when you have no control over the situation, involve God in it and say, thank you, God, and if I can't be where I want to be or doing what I want to be doing in this moment, whatever I am doing, I'll do with you. That will keep him just as close. But when you do have the freedom, then use it. Fight for it, whether it's to meditate, whether it's to chant, whether it's to come here, whether it's to watch Swamiji on YouTube. But remember, we always need to be reminded, because every day we wake up, oh yes, and Nirvikalpa Samadhi, huh? Nirvikalpa Sa, and we have to always wake up again. And this new year represents a new lifetime. Imagine if you could start the new lifetime with a memory of Kriya, that even sort of, what's your first word? Ah. Second word, E, as a baby. It'd be really cute to see an infant doing Kriya. It'd be wonderful. We would love to, or at least have a little note. When you're 5, go find, Yoganandaji's disciples, or whatever. So many things we would hope for that we could get a little hint of in our new birth. So we wouldn't have to bumble around until age 50 and then find it again. You see? And if that happened, don't worry. There's a good answer for that too. But just to say, knowing what we know now, we would like to get started as soon as possible. So view this new year as that opportunity. View it as a new incarnation, a blank slate. And yet you retain the knowledge. You retain all the skills you've developed. You retain all of the passion you've been building for God. And you've, of course, retained all your meditation techniques, and you know where to go and you know how to get there. So with the launching of, even if you've had a wonderful previous year, celebrate it, thank it, and then bid it farewell for a new adventure. If you find this new year is difficult at all, or there are some setbacks, or there is, gosh, I was hoping for a lot from 2019, and, I was hoping for a lot from 1998 also, but, here we are again. Remember also, this year is sweet because it's the 50th year of Ananda. And so just as whatever year it is of your life with Ananda in your life, this is a precious year. And so you can say, if nothing else, it is the 50th year of Ananda, and I can be happy about that and celebrate the meaning in my life. And in any case, please know also that we will be celebrating with you. We're very grateful to see you all. We've seen the New Year's Eve attendance grow more and more over the years, and it's very sweet. Some of you here for the first time, and many of you here for the 5th time. And I've had a lot of practice speaking at New Year's Eve. The first few times I was sort of shocked because everywhere I panned in the audience there was either smile or yawn. Smile or yawn. In the first few years, I was like, gosh, are there not enough jokes or what's happening? And I realized, oh, that's right, work a whole day, it's 11:30 at night. So anyway, thank you all for being here, not just tonight, but over all these years. God bless you.